7, 6, 11, 5, 9 and 20 miles today, 4, 11, 17, 32 the day before. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Don't look at what's in front of you. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war.
And you're telling me this is coming from a woman who has cancer in her brain, like, and she's doing that?
Try to think of something different. Oh, my God, keep me from going lunatic. Moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11, 5, 4, 17, 32 the day before.
I went to go see 28 Years Later. This was the return of a franchise that hasn't had a movie since 2007, and its first movie was made back in 2002. So far, it has hit at $60 million during the weekend at the global box office, but just because it has commercial success, this is a movie that you should go see. Now, I would like to say that you should form your own opinion, but since I'm a content creator, I am obliged to tell you my opinion. And whether it sways your opinion or not, you'll just have to see. We're going to be starting with the previous two films that released in both 2002 and 2007. 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. 28 Days Later starts with a very realistic depiction of how a virus might begin, with scientific stupidity. In a Cambridge University, there's a biochemical weapons lab, which I don't know why a university has that, but okay. In that lab, there are chimps that are being experimented on who all have a chip of some sort in their brains. They're being forced to watch what seems to be war footage and violent protests, and they also have the Ebola virus as a delivery system for this rage virus. One of the scientists that developed this left the project after finding out that there was a mutated virus, and they were so disgusted that they contacted animal rights activists, and they broke in, tried to release one of the chimps. The chimp promptly infected one of these activists, and within 28 days, the virus had completely taken over the country. This is where we get to see our lovely main character, Jim. Jim wakes up from a coma after crashing his bike from his previous job as a bike courier. He finds out that just about everything is gone, nobody is in sight. As he walks the streets of a vacant London, he starts to realize how much different life is when nobody's around, up until the church scene, which is by far one of my favorite scary scenes in most of horror media. As he enters the church, he sees many dead bodies. There are possibly hundreds, maybe even 1,000 dead bodies within this church.
Hello?
Probably the best use of a jump scare during that time when that movie was released. Soon after, he meets two survivors named Selena and Mark. They both have their own stories and they share them with Jim, who Jim has a mission now that he wants to go and see his parents and see if they are alive, even though the chances of that are likely 0. After visiting his old home in possibly one of the saddest scenes in the entire movie, the next move was to stay at the home for the night. Selena saves Jim very quickly, but Mark, in the process, is infected. Selena does not even hesitate. The story continues with Jim following Selena. They meet two other survivors named Frank and Hannah. Frank is the father of Hannah, and Frank just might be the nicest guy you will ever meet during the apocalypse. He welcomes these two into his home, shares food and alcohol with them, and shares his beds with them. How nice of him. Soon after, they notice that they are running out of supplies and that they do indeed need to go elsewhere if they are to survive. This is when they start using a radio, which is currently broadcasting someone from the Manchester area that the answer to infection is here. Whether that was true or not, this did spark hope that there were others out there that were alive. On the way there, they have a little bit of a tire trouble after a very hasty decision by Frank to drive over a bunch of cars for some reason. I'm not really sure why he did that, but it did add tension to the scene when the infected were attracted by the noise. Soon after, they visit the grocery store and get a buttload of food. They visit another place to get some gas from an abandoned semi-truck, and Jim, for some reason, enters an abandoned burger shop and kills an infected child. That's kind of crazy. And this scene also shows us that the infected can somehow speak.
What?
And then they're off to go find this place. What they find seems to be abandoned. Maybe they were too late. And this makes Frank, quite frankly, pissed.
We have to go.
Yeah.
Go fucking where?
This is where we start to see Frank start to lose it a little bit.
Right.
Frank is taking his anger out a little bit on this bird. And then he makes a major mistake as a drop of blood drops from the dead infected person and infects Frank. And this is definitely the saddest scene in the entire movie, because we get to know Frank. You love this guy. He's a wonderful person, but then you lose him in an instant. But before Frank can try to attack the people he just was traveling with, a few armed soldiers would gun Frank down, and that would be the end of Frank.
Stay away from him!
Major Henry West apologizes to Jim, speaks to him, and actually shares this very haunting information that he promises men women. And this lights a flame within Jim. Jim gets really angry. He storms off, tries to escape with the two girls. They did have help from one of the sympathetic soldiers, but he was dealt with and he was in prison just like Jim was. And right when they were going to be executed the next morning, the two soldiers that were supposed to be doing the executing are just about as bright as a pair of bolts. The other guy does get shot and killed, but this allows Jim to hide amongst a body of what seems to be infected before jumping the wall. And this is where everything starts to go a little bit nuts for me, and when things start to make a little less sense in this movie, because Jim deals with these armed, trained soldiers like nothing, like a swatter to a fly. And even worse, when he returns back to the mansion, he frees an infected, which just looks at him, doesn't try to attack him or anything, and then he just goes off on his own. What? During this sequence, one of the best pieces of horror music that I've ever heard, called In the House in a Heartbeat, starts playing, and it's fucking phenomenal music. It keeps ramping up in intensity with the instruments, and it's so strong and powerful during this sequence, because the more chaotic it becomes, the more chaos that happens within this mansion. We get a little bit of a makeout scene between Jim and Selena before they start escaping back out. Major Henry West gets a little bit of a revenge shot at Jim, but then Hannah makes sure that Major Henry West does not get to see the light of day again, because he's in a car with the same infected zombie that he had chained up. Although Jim was shot almost fatally, he does end up actually being okay. He did survive, and they traveled to a new area, an abandoned home somewhere off into the countryside, where they would stay there and survive until there was dispatch going out to look for survivors. Whenever that would happen, they would get a bunch of white cloth, put the help signal out onto the ground, see if they can get any help. Finally, they did, and that's how the movie ends. On a happy ending, despite the death of Frank. It's a very good film, and I do recommend you go see 28 Days Later at some point. Whether you've got it on DVD, or you want to watch it through streaming, or whatever. Dude, this is an amazing film. It's one of my favorite horror films of all time. And it revolutionized the zombie genre, where everybody thought zombies were slow and were rising from the dead. The opposite of that. They are recently infected, they were just human a moment ago, and they can run. They are scary, they're terrifying, and the idea of it is haunting. And now, it's time to talk about the next movie, which is a little strange. Because during this time in 2007, there was major competition like the first live-action Transformers film, and a few other films that I can't really remember off the top of my head. But this movie didn't really help itself either amidst that competition, because it's not as good. The opening, phenomenal. Very tense and scary. It uses In the House in a Heartbeat again, which is really good for this. We find Don and Alice, who are husband and wife, staying over with some elderly people who allowed them in their home during the time of the infection. They're about to have dinner when a stray boy just kind of starts banging on the doors of the cottage. I'm not sure why we're answering the door, but Alice seems to think that we need to save the boy. It's just a boy. Well, we're also, like, in a very rough time, and I think maybe he should fend for himself somehow. We should not be allowing this or encouraging this kind of thing, but alas, we make the mistake of letting the boy in. Which attracts a massive horde of infected, which attack them, and it kills everyone. Each member of this makeshift family just dies one by one, up until we get to the very top floor of the cottage, where Alice is trying to protect this boy that kind of just ruined everything. Don warned them about this, but, you know, nobody listened. So what Don does might be the smartest decision ever, and he just bolts. Nobody listened to him when he said don't let them in, so why should he listen when the wife tells him, you have to save us, you have to help us. I mean, you might think Don's a coward, and maybe he is, but he's also very intelligent, at least for the first half of the movie. We'll get to that later, okay? Anyways, Don runs away in this fantastic chase sequence where the zombies are running down the hill, and oh my goodness, this is so well done. The cinematography on this is on point, and the tensity of this scene is incredible. Don tries to escape on a boat. The guy trying to start the boat, which is another guy that was surviving with them, ends up falling out of the boat into the water, and he's dead. He's done. Don escapes with his life. The next time we see Don, he's now like sort of running the show in London in District 1. I'm not sure why we're giving a janitor the keys to this stuff. By the way, yeah, he's a janitor. But this happens 28 weeks after this beginning scene, which is arguably the one amazing part about this movie. The rest of this movie is very subpar. We got Don and Alice's kids, who were, before all this happened, all this infection stuff, they were on a school trip in Spain. So at least they were safe. They talk about what happened to their mother. Don is heartbroken. Understandably, he's heartbroken because he feels like he failed his wife and that he was a coward. And I'll give him that, because the rest of the movie, this guy's a fucking moron. This is where everything falls off the rails for this guy. We also get to meet Sergeant Doyle, who is one of 4 rooftop snipers that we get to know. Not that much, but, you know enough that these guys are rooftop snipers and that they're American. At some point at nighttime, they're observing all the buildings to make sure everybody's sleeping and everybody's okay. Privacy breach, but it's understandable because of how dangerous the rage virus is. Soon enough, we got the 2 siblings somehow escaping, which means this movie is just gonna start sucking very soon, because we just get these 2 kids who are dum-dums, like, la la la, everything's fine. No, man, there was a virus that just rampaged this city not that long ago. Like these kids are stupid. After that, the boy walks up to the attic of their old home. By the way, they were doing this to go back to their old home for some reason. But miraculously, Alice is alive. She looks infected, but she's not. But she is. We'll get to that soon. I'll come up with a theory on that. Or maybe I'm stupid and I just can't see that she is infected. I don't know. I barely paid attention to this movie. This movie kind of blows chunks. Okay, I went back to look at the scene, and when she goes to hug her son, she's a little aggressive with it, so she's probably infected. She's like, when she's hugging her son, her fingers are almost digging into his back, which means she has superhuman strength. She's probably infected. But she's somehow fighting this virus, which is one of the more interesting parts of this movie, is it introduces different types of infected people. Finally, the US military does track the two kids down, and they figure out that Alice is infected and alive, and so they take her to experiment on. They go and give her a nice, pleasant shower where she isn't screaming at the top of her lungs at all, and it is a very pleasant scene. We get someone who's trying to interrogate her. It's not working. She's not speaking, probably because she's infected.
Can you tell me anything about how you managed to keep alive while you were gone so long?
Colgate challenge with orange in the middle.
Then they reveal a bite mark. Oh, anyways, all the questions that they're trying to ask Alice don't make any fucking sense for, like, an infected person. Like, how have you stayed alive? I don't know why these doctors aren't nearly as smart as they should be. They are fucking stupid. Also, it's a 2007 film, so, like, everyone's stupid, so I don't know. Maybe that's the reason why they're dumb. Finally, they have Alice put down onto a bed and isolated. She's kind of just chilling in a room. The doctors are given orders that Alice needs to be exterminated, which is a very good idea because she could very well start the outbreak once again. And guess who's going into the room unauthorized? Don. Why does he have the keys to this place, guys? We get this scene that is known as the kiss of death, and it's like the stupidest decision ever. Like, did nobody inform Don when they gave him the keys to the place that the virus had the ability to spread via saliva and blood? Like, is this guy like a box of rocks when it comes to thinking? Anyways, deservedly, Don is infected because he decided to kiss an infected person because he is just really intelligent. Which then proceeds to show the most violent death I had ever seen in these movies so far. Like, this was brutal. He's punching the ever-living shit out of his wife, digs his thumbs into her eyes, shakes her violently around. It's horrible. It's violent, and it's over the top for the scene. And it also raises some theories about this now newly infected Don, because previously I had never seen an infected person in these movies act in this way. So Don's maybe a little bit different, and it raises questions as to what the carrier can do with the virus while it is in their system. What happens with the virus, and does it mutate to start creating more effects? Because Don's a little fucking vicious. And then we get the bright idea to when we activate Code Red, which was the bright decision, that we get the very not so bright decision to pack everyone into a room, and there's an open back door for some reason, and Don enters it and starts infecting everyone he sees, and then other infected start infecting the large group. Then the doors open, the snipers are given an order to shoot down any infected and don't shoot civilians, which at some point then just becomes the order to just kill everything. And Sergeant Doyle is reluctant to do this, eventually just stops shooting a sniper and then just gets down from his position and goes to save the two kids. I think you should maybe just focus on killing as many of those infected as possible, but that might just be me. This movie's not very good. Eventually, the whole situation gets out of control. The infected start invading all the decontaminized areas and the areas that haven't even been touched yet by the US military. And the situation is completely out of fucking control. Sergeant Doyle manages to get these two kids somehow by the grace of God or something. And he gets them into a car at some point, which they don't know how to start. The infected are trying to get into the car, and then a gas is deployed by the US military that kills the infected, but they could die from this. And they put the cloth over their shirts. I'm not really sure how that's gonna help when this is like a military toxin. Probably equivalent to Agent Orange too, by the way. Who knows? I'm not sure if the fabric of your shirt's gonna help this. It's also a not very obvious flaw of this movie. Then We find out there's actually flame troopers behind them, so you know what's gonna happen to Sergeant Doyle. We're getting another main character murked from this movie. First it's Dawn, now it's Sergeant Doyle. Now we've got to deal with these two kids as our fucking main characters. I do not like this movie. Frank's death worked because we got to know him over time, over the course of around an hour of the movie, and we got to love Frank, and he was a kind man who didn't deserve death, and he was a very understandable man. Frank's death was sad, and it was awful, and it reminded us of how vulnerable everyone was to this virus. These two deaths were just stupid. We get one man who kisses an infected person for some reason, because he just can't hold it back. The second death is just Sergeant Doyle who just gets burned by a flame trooper, which, you know what, he did something noble in the end. He's trying to get these kids out of here, but, like, at the same time, like, how many more people are going to be just murked for the sake of the plot to go forward? Also, he didn't really need to die, I don't think. He also didn't need to get off the rooftop. He didn't need to do any of this. He didn't need to do this movie. Eventually, the kids rendezvous to an empty stadium. I can't remember the name of the stadium. I know, shoot me, I don't watch fucking soccer. I think it's Wembley Stadium, I think that's the name of it. Which there's a chopper there, which has one of Sergeant Doyle's friends. Basically, they just kinda get to the point where, we find out, oh yeah, sorry, let me back it up. Before they get to Wembley Stadium, the two siblings are still running away. Don finally meets, in his infected form, he meets his son one more time. He goes to bite the son is in immense pain, this is awful, but he's not infected. He's now another carrier, which leads to them going to Wembley Stadium shortly after the daughter shoots, Don. I don't remember their names. As I've said many times, I don't like this movie. They get onto the chopper, and they're headed to Paris. Which is all good and all that, but we find out shortly that the same helicopter that they just left on is now abandoned. There's an SOS call on that radio, and there are zombies invading Paris. I think maybe the boy might have infected someone, and now the outbreak is in Paris, and that's how the movie ends. It raises more questions than answers. But the next movie answers some of those questions for us. There will be spoilers, but first, before we get into the movie, here's a little bit of footage of me heading to the movie, because not only was it the day of the release of 28 years later, June 20th was also my birthday.
It's my birthday. Today is the day. We go to the theater. We see that there's a plane above me. Today is the day we go to the theater and we go and watch the movie. Got the shirt, the dad bod shirt, dad bod. Got the helmet. Like one time for that. Like another time for that. I love water. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Here's the plan today. We are in town. As you might be able to see behind me, we are in a town. This is the town. This would be the town. We are going to not go to the theater right away because currently Zach is at work until 6. The time is, I can't. Well, I can't do that while I'm recording, so I'm going to guess it's 3:20. So last time I looked at my clock, it was like 3:15. That was just right before I pulled in. Thinking about getting something to eat, but also I had to go to my workplace because they also have a birthday surprise for me. I just realized I have like 10 trillion scratches on my goggles, which I can also see while I'm driving, so I'm partially blind. Birthday boy gets birthday potato bacon soup. The crispy chicken's for later. I got a bag, and it says my name on it. Fruit gummies. Dude, wait. Oh! What are these? Dude, I'm gonna be large. So, I'm actually trying to find Zach a birthday present. I'm not really sure what he would want, and I can't really bother him because he's at work right now. But I have no idea what this kid wants. There's a Turtle Beach controller. That looks like it's been beating the crap out of Mario Samsung. It's the new game. Look, the new game. Isn't that crazy? Cool. Guys, Earl Sinclair. It's crazy. Oh, wait. What? It's not letting me zoom in. Focus up. Focus up. What? Wait. What the fuck are they making sense about? Wait a second. Okay, that's actually incredible. Oh. It's only $60. I've decided I will get Zach something else on his birthday. I will wait in a week. Okay. It is currently 9:20. I'm waiting for Zach to get here. He said he was 20 minutes out about 40 minutes ago. He's not here yet. Still waiting for him. We're finally going to be heading out soon. It is about a half hour out from when we gotta be there. There is a train going off. 107.5. Does it work?
Brother.
Fooled around with 3,000.
We're gonna get there right in time to not have to see any of the trailers. You know, something I didn't know is that the theater sells alcohol now.
Yeah, they have a bar.
And I didn't know they had a bar. When did they have a bar?
I don't know. They replaced the arcade with that dumb shit. No one even goes to it.
There was an arcade?
Yeah.
What do you...
Arcade in there.
I didn't know...
Not like a full-fledged arcade, but they had like...
But that sounds fun.
Yeah, no, it was fun.
Wow, we're getting car commercials.
Kia, movement that inspires.
If you love to travel,
If you have that much money, you're not buying
a credit card that opens up a world of possibilities. With Venture X, you earn unlimited double
Could buy a
miles on
used
everything
Kia.
you buy. And turn all of your purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus,
sure,
get
if you're
premium
paying
benefits
child
and a
support, your
collection of
credit
luxury
score's
hotels when you book on Capital.
How do you feel, mister?
No explanation, no nothing. Just gave the zombie the business, and then that's it. She got cremated.
Yeah. Did you like the ending?
Oh, it was great. It was a great ending.
So we're getting over. We've done the movie. We watched the movie. We get to the final 2 minutes. That's how long that was, I think.
Yeah, it was literally.
Dude, there's no light in here, and this fucking camera's shite. What'd you think of the ending? You want to tell us in full explanation how you feel?
So the entirety of the movie was super gritty, super serious.
Wait, oh, there we go.
No, it was super serious, super gritty, super good. What you'd expect out of a movie like that. And then at the end you got some fucking slobs pulling up in Adidas jumpsuits. The leader dude had a fucking princess tiara on his head, and they start doing like a whole circus act on the zombies. And then they're like, "Hey, want to be friends?" Just
Oh my god.
and then credits.
And then credit. It leads up
That's
to something else. Like that ending skit was on par with like Shaun of the Dead. Had
I
the
don't
right
know.
music.
I couldn't tell you what the hell that's gonna lead up to, but it's gonna lead up to something. I don't know what the fuck that was supposed to be.
They just pulled up. They in their jumpsuits. Just squat like this.
There you go. Perfect. You're right in the center too.
Blood. Would you like to join? We have golf club and pours. You also want jumpsuits?
Roll credit. That's literally all it was.
That was literally. They didn't speak like that. It would have been 10 times funnier if they did. I mean, we didn't get any explanation to
Yeah, the kid's mom, absolutely just skull fucking a zombie.
She destroyed that thing.
No other explanation as to why or how.
She didn't look like she woke up or anything.
No. There was no other explanation. It was literally the one scene of literally the zombie just getting absolutely impregnated and stomped out.
Speaking of impregnated, the zombie woman. I didn't understand what was. That just happened.
If maybe we got a little bit more context.
Maybe if we did 28 months later instead of 28 years.
But there wasn't, so we're just sitting there like, why?
Why?
What was the point?
What was there was like...
I thought when that scene happened, I literally thought the mom had some like fucking weird superpower or something. And you're telling me this is coming from a woman who has cancer in her brain? Like, and she's doing that? Almost unconsciously? And you have no other mention of it in the movie, ever, at all, again, whatsoever. She just dies.
She just dies. She gets taken out back into literally, to the woodsheds. After that, he's carrying a skull.
Yeah, he's like, hey, memento mori. Oh, by the way, here's your mom's skull.
Una's honest. What if it was Markiplier doing that?
Markiplier.
Just one more skull to the pile.
Would have never been taken serious at
all.
No.
Nope. That's why nobody's taking FNAF 2 seriously. Dude, that movie was fire. Some context was missing. But the end, all context got flown out of the window. Because
the entire theme of the movie shifted for the last 2 minutes.
World's sharpest left turn. We busted out the laughing at the ending.
It got a little goofy.
It was a little too goofy. For my taste.
We went from like the seriousness of a movie like A Quiet Place to the seriousness of like Zombieland.
It was almost like you're going on a road trip to like on like a business trip, and then you see like a NASCAR theme park and you stay there for 3 days. Like, what are you doing? You have a place to go. You have a business trip, you're gonna be late because you're driving a car.
Spoiler warning for people who have not seen 28 Years Later and would rather not be spoiled about this movie. I'm going to get into some very deep detail with mainly the intro, and I won't go into too much detail about the rest of the movie, and I'll tell you why. Because I think this opening is phenomenal and the rest of the movie is just a pretty decent movie. Until the fucking end of the movie. But let's talk about this fucking fantastic opening scene. It takes place in the Scottish Highlands. These group of kids are in this room, isolated from the rest of this family. Like, they all live in this nice looking cottage. I don't know if it's a cottage or just a regular house. It's nice, regardless. But this does a very interesting choice in writing that really hits the nail on the head for just how terrifying this rage virus was. It's in the point of view of a poor 6 or 8-year-old child named Jimmy. And that is sad, because we have to experience his family one by one, watching as the family gets infected one by one, seeing their symptoms dig in within 10 to 15 seconds, and seeing them just get destroyed right in front of poor Jimmy, who has the most worried look on a face I've seen in a child actor in a movie. Like, the kid who played this character, Jimmy, he did a good job at looking like he was scared and worried and confused as to what was even happening. His mother tells him to run, and within a few seconds after he escapes, we see probably the most horrifying fucking facial expression I've ever seen, which is the transition from a lovely mother to a horrifying monster. Just look at this face. This is gonna give me nightmares for a week. He gets to the church where his father is. His father is a priest, and he is currently praying, not for his life, but within joy of the day of judgment. Like, this guy is the most calm guy. Outside, Jimmy is trying to get into the church desperately. And before we continue, can we just look at this little panorama shot? That was cool. And what is this? I think this was the best use of this panorama style shot in the entire film. It was used a few more times, but the other times were more so for bullet time, and I guess it's okay. It looks alright. It's pretty cool. But using it for this sequence, it just makes everything feel more jarring and scary, and it was a perfect use of it. Eventually, the child does get into the building, the church, and he goes to embrace his father. He's pleading it to him what to do. He doesn't know what to do, and what child would? This is horrifying. Father embraces his son. He's telling him about the day of judgment, and he is excited about it. I've never seen someone excited about a zombie apocalypse before. But eventually, I think the father kind of notices that maybe his son is not ready for this kind of information, and so he allows him to survive. He gives him his holy crucifix necklace. He tells him to have faith. The zombies break in, and the father does a very noble final act by making sure that all of the infected are focused on him by shouting the praises of Judgment Day before finally being consumed. And it feels almost ritualistic with all these infected surrounding the priest. If there's like fountains of vomit blood just being poured onto this man, and he is quickly infected. Like, this is the fastest reaction. I think this was like 5 seconds. Like, he went from Father Priest to horrifying infected man. His entire eyes are red. But what he does next raises another theory of mine, because what happens with him is while he's infected, he's turning around and he's being raised up, and then he crawls out of the pile of infected and starts leading them out of the church, fully well knowing that his son is still inside. So the fact that the father led all of the infected out of the church, I think this means he had enough consciousness left to get the infected away from his son. That's really cool, and I don't think I've seen anybody talk about it. Finally, we see Jimmy running down the hill, away from the church and away from everything. The shot fades. The last thing we see is his cross, his crucifix cross. Then we see the text. The rage virus laid waste to the UK. It was driven back from continental Europe. The British mainland was quarantined to contain the virus. Survivors were left to fend for themselves. After that, we get the little text 28 years later, and the real movie begins. And what's sad to me is that this entire movie, I was waiting for this intro to make a lick of sense, because it was fucking phenomenal. I loved this cold open. It was scary, terrifying, it was amazing. I loved it to death. And let me tell you right now, spoilers, this opening scene does not connect to shit until the final 2 minutes of the movie. And that rightfully pisses me off, because that's what a movie is supposed to do. It's supposed to connect all parts to it in a very well-known manner, in a very good format, and it just doesn't. Because this opening scene deserves so much more than to just be the connection to a sequel. So we get to the first part. I thought the first part was actually pretty good. It was about the coming of age for a young boy named Spike, who lived with his mother Isla and his father, I forgot his name, but it's his father. They go out to the British mainland as a way of going to hunt zombies for the boy to first experience what the infection is like. There's a low tide, high tide thing that connects their safe zone village to the British mainland, and that's a pretty cool defense system. I think that's really awesome, because it actually does defend them very well. And so we see the father and son rushing back because they do actually have to go through another chase scene because the house that they were just in did start collapsing and they had to run as fast as they could because the infected definitely did hear that. And it's actually just one zombie, an alpha. The alpha has both brought a lot of theories as well as a single meme about its dick and balls being so fucking hung, like this guy was just hung out of his fucking mind. Maybe he signed up for the acting of the alpha just to show off his cock. I don't fucking know. This guy's... Ugh. Anyways, they go back to the village as fast as they can because they realize the alphas found them. The whole village is celebrating Spike's first kill and his father is lying about some of the things that he did. And the son is like confused. He's like, I didn't do that. And everybody's too loud to care. Everybody's like, yeah. His father is making out with some other woman, even though he has a wife. And also, let's talk about the wife a little bit, since the next part of the story will have to involve her in quite some way. So basically, Spike's mom is very sick with something. He doesn't know what it is, and there's no doctors in the village, so they don't know what to do. But then he remembers about the fireplace, and he asks his, I think, grandfather? I didn't really get that part because I did watch this in theaters. I can't really remember it too well. He remembers that there was a fireplace. He asks his grandfather about it, and his grandfather tells him there is a doctor, Dr. Kelson. People thought he was insane because he was having like ritualistic buryings of bodies and stuff. And well, from a distance and without any context of what he's doing, yeah, that sounds a little strange. But the boy doesn't seem to care. He wants a doctor so he can save his sick mother. That's very nice. I think that the boy's relationship with his mother is very good, especially in this part. While I didn't like the whole thing as a whole, this part of the movie, it was very sweet seeing him interact with his mother, and it was just really nice overall. It does raise a question in one part. When they are sleeping, there's this crawling fat zombie that approaches the boy Spike, and then all of a sudden there's tarp thrown over the zombie's head that it snaps to them in the morning. Then it snaps back to the mom who, Isla, had somehow covered the zombie's head in tarp and then started beating the ever-living shit out of it. She's sick, remember that. And she somehow does this, and the movie doesn't explain one iota of it. It just moves on. Basically, after that, she kind of just forgets this happens, which is either her trying to cover it up, or she did just genuinely forget, because I'll tell you what her symptoms are later, and one of them is forgetting. And it just gets sad from there, so we'll get there in a bit. Later on, they're in a flower field, they're having another mom and son discussion. Another infected arrives at the scene. This is the same zombie in the 28 years later trailers that everybody thought was Cillian Murphy, because he looks a lot like him. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention a stupid plot point to this that kind of just appeared out of nowhere. There's a Swedish naval strike force that crashed onto the shores of the mainland, and apparently there's a rule that if you enter the mainland, you can't go out. You can't return out of it. You can't get out. You are done. You are left to fend for yourself. So these guys are here just to fight the infected. They are actually in a losing battle because a bunch of them are chasing them. Some of them get injured, and you know what happens to injured people when they start slowing down against running zombies. They get jumped. Eventually, the entire strike force is basically wiped out, all except for one guy, due to the presence of an alpha just completely decimating them, and the alpha actually shows off his signature move, ripping the head and spinal cord out of a human being, and using the stupid head as a weapon now. That's crazy. Eventually, one last soldier meets up at the gas station with these two people. He doesn't know that they're there until he finds out the place is just going off. We get to meet this Swedish naval strike force guy. I can't remember his name, nor do I care, because this guy lasts 10 minutes before he just is removed from the movie. I don't care. And the way he's removed from the movie is the mother, Isla, just goes onto this train, and he finds an infected pregnant mom, which before all this happened, by the way, we were just getting weird shots of this Like, I don't know why we were juxtaposed on this one pregnant, infected woman. Like, it was a little strange. I was a little uncomfortable. And now I was super uncomfortable because it was in labor. Gave birth to a perfectly uninfected baby, and then proceeded to try to attack before the Swedish guy gunned it down. Eventually, while trying to escape the Alpha, some random dude covered in iodine in an orange shawl comes out, blows a dart into the infected Alpha, and it's morphine. Because guess what we just found? Dr. Kelson. I like Ray Fiennes. This guy does a phenomenal job in acting, and this begins probably my favorite part of this film, because this acting and this arc of the story is phenomenal. I actually loved this part. Of course, after thinking about it a little bit, because at first I thought it was a little confusing, but with deeper thinking, this is actually a very deep and interesting part of the story. Dr. Ian Kelson was a survivor of the initial outbreak and lived pretty much alone. He buried all these bodies and built what people now call the Bone Temple. This is where he lives, and he makes sure to protect himself using methods that he knows, using plenty of morphine. I'm kind of glad that we got the Swedish dickwad to die to replace him with a much better third character. Ian Kelson is such a well-written guy. He's just so understanding of the situation, and he's definitely not even insane. People thought he was insane because of all the bodies he was burying and all the bones he was collecting, but his reason for that is so noble that you almost want to help him do it. He's honoring the dead, whether they were infected or not. And a phrase that he says is memento mori, remember death. Shortly after placing the skull of the Swedish guy somewhere in the maze of bones and skulls, the boy asked the doctor to check his mother. After several hours of different tests and all of that, which he doesn't do with any equipment, he's basically doing memory tests with the mother. She doesn't do too well with it, and it's very obvious that she's very sick and her brain is affected by whatever the ailment is. And what he says is sad. She has cancer. Then there were cysts that were on her breasts, and she has many symptoms that would lead to cancer. And the saddest part is he tells the young boy who knew nothing about cancer or anything and was looking for a cure that there isn't one. And so I assume that she agreed upon this sometime before telling the boy about the bad news, that she agreed to be euthanized by Dr. Ian Kelson. So the procedure happens after this very touching scene and him placing his mother's skull to face the sunrise at the very summit of the skull, temple, which is very, very touching, by the way. I just loved this entire sequence of the movie. This was very beautiful. And honestly, this movie was starting to barrel towards a fantastic ending to this movie, and I was about to be like, man, this is worth the wait. We got to hear East Hastings again. You remember when Jim, in the first movie, 28 Days Later, was exploring vacant London? We got that very, very sad-sounding guitar piece. Oh, so good. It played again in the ending of this movie, and it was a callback. It was the start of Spike's journey. It was the start of Jim's journey. It was playing the same song. That was awesome. That was powerful. It was perfect. It was a monologue of Spike's letter being written onto paper along with the uninfected baby. Shortly after all this, Spike is running away from a horde of zombies that start chasing him after seeing him. He kills one of them. And honestly, if the movie ended there, 10 out of 10 ending. But do you remember little Jimmy from the beginning of the movie? Remember how that opening sequence hasn't connected to shit yet? I think they may have forgotten, because finally Jimmy shows up. He's a grown boy, and he's wearing some fucking tracksuit. He's got the crucifix around his neck. He's like, wow, that was a nice shot, old boy, but it looks like there's gonna be too many infected. So what, can you let us handle it? And then there's a bunch of people that look exactly like him, which is a cult, I guess. That's what people are saying. It's a cult. They're called the Jimmies? What happens next is so tonally deaf to the rest of the movie. They go into this weird Power Ranger sequence where they start using a bunch of these weapons, like metal poles, golf clubs, nets, bags, and they just go to town on these zombies, and there's this really hard rock music. It's so different from the rest of the 28 series, by the way. This is so tonally deaf to the rest of the movies. It's almost disrespectful to the series, and at the very least, kind of dumb. And then after all the infected are either dead or trapped or something, the Jimmy guy goes up to Spike. He's like, hello, let's be friends. He like holds out his hand as in a handshake, and Spike is shaking it. And then roll credits. I really wish this ending was not included and it was just saved for the beginning of the Bone Temple, which comes out in 6 months. I'm not sure why we couldn't just do that. This movie was very, very good until the very end, which completely disregards everything else about the movie. It could have been written better, and it could have been placed better in the next movie. It did not have to end like this. I'm telling you that because this is fucking stupid. This was a totally dumb writing choice, and it's the first time I've seen these two directors fuck something up so dumb. Because they didn't direct 28 Weeks Later. I'll give them that. Anyway, I do hope that the Bone Temple, which releases in January on the 16th, makes up for this, because wow, that ending is atrocious. Personally, I think the ending was really bad, but I think the rest of the movie was just so good that I think I would watch this again. But then again, this isn't my movie, and honestly, maybe the Bone Temple will make everything make more sense. And I hope it does, because honestly, this movie was good throughout, all except for the very ending, and I really hope that ending does make sense at some point in the future, because currently, it doesn't now. Even with lore implications, the writing and the tone of this movie completely gets flipped over its head in this final sequence, and it's just really strange, and I feel like it could have been written better, or at least saved for later. Anyways, what do you guys think of the new movie 28 Years Later, if you've seen it or not, and what your thoughts are? I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys enjoyed the movies this weekend, and I know there's not too many decent ones to go out and see, but there are a handful, including this one, that I think you should go and see. Check out my regular YouTube channel, Four Corners TV, and make sure to stay tuned to this channel for more content based on movies and TV shows. See ya!
Macha palati ze pali before ano bubu